Right now, someone weaker than you is winning. Why? Because they appear more confident. They speak without hesitation. They act as if they deserve everything, and the world believes them. Meanwhile, you are hesitating. You are overthinking. You are waiting for the right moment, the right words, the right mood. And while you wait, someone else is taking what could have been yours. Confidence is not a personality trait. It is a weapon. And if you do not wield it, someone else will use it against you. Machiavelli knew this centuries ago. The bold move forward, even if they lack skills. The indecisive fall behind, no matter how brilliant they are. Because power does not belong to the best. It belongs to the most confident. This video is a turning point. Not for motivation, not for comfort, but for control. You will learn to erase hesitation, to speak like a ruler, and to move like a person who expects to be obeyed. Pay close attention, because from this moment on, your weakness will no longer be tolerated. It will be replaced. You were not born weak. You were made that way through repetition, rewards, rules, and training to obey, with a craving for approval. The question is it acceptable? What lives within you now is not a person. It is a servant, trained to please, programmed to obey. A loyal dog that flinches at disapproval and waits for permission. That voice in your head that hesitates, that overthinks, that apologizes before speaking, is not you. It is the inner servant, and if you do not destroy it, you will never be free. Machiavelli did not whisper. He commanded. He did not wait. While others were figuring him out, he acted and let them catch up. He did not ask for power. He seized it because he knew that those who ask do not deserve it. Your transformation begins with inversion. Every time you want to shrink, expand. Every time you want to explain yourself, stop. Every time you want to apologize, look into their eyes. Because dangerous confidence does not come from a sense of readiness. It comes from actions that the inner servant would never dare to take. You walk faster. You take up more space. You stop nodding. You stop softening your tone. You speak as if your words are decisions, not suggestions. Confidence is not a mindset. It is an identity. And this identity is forged in opposition, not against the world, but against that version of yourself that still wants to serve. And here is your first rule. If it makes you smaller, destroy that thought, that habit, that person. If it makes you hesitate, confront it. If it makes you weak, deny it. If it tries to be pleasant, laugh at it. The world will tell you to be kind, polite, and nice. But here is the Machiavellian truth. Nice people are tools. They are used, discarded, replaced. Strong people are not nice. They are precise, deliberate, controlled, calculating. And it begins with the destruction of that small voice inside you that still asks to be nice. You do not need permission. You do not need approval. You need only one thing: the willingness to become frightening, not for others, but for your former self. Because once you destroy the pleaser, the ruler awakens. Strong people do not come with noise. They appear with presence, not through voice, but through silence, a calm gaze. You do not need to be known. You do not need to be loved. It is enough for the atmosphere to change the moment you enter. This is how a person moves when they own the room. Not because they were told to, but because they always behave this way. Machiavelli understood this in royal courts. Power was not always held by kings. Sometimes it was the person in the corner who spoke little. But when they spoke, the entire court listened. Silence is control. Do you think that talking makes you dominant? It does not. It makes you predictable. A quiet person is a threat, because no one knows what they are thinking. When you enter a room, you do not seek permission. You do not look around for approval. You observe. You absorb. You allow others to rush to prove themselves while you calculate. Your posture speaks before your mouth. You move slowly, not because you are unsure, but because you are not in a hurry. Predators do not rush if it is not time to strike. Before that, they wait. Calm, ready. Most people do not even realize how quickly they move, how quickly they speak, how often they interrupt, because they are trying to impress, because they are still subject to someone else's judgments. But when you enter as if you own the room, you do not speak to impress. You speak to resolve. Every sentence carries finality. Every word sounds like a conclusion. People begin to listen differently. They do not challenge you. They tune in to you. And when others speak, you wait. You allow them to speak first. You let them reveal their hunger, their insecurity, their weaknesses, because the one who speaks first usually reveals their fears. And once you know this, you can bend them to your will. You do not chase energy. You create gravity. Because confidence at this level is not about being loved. It is about making others doubt their position simply by standing next to you. Therefore, you behave as if you have already won, not arrogantly, but like one who is not competing. Because they have already chosen themselves. If you are respected, good. If not, even better. Because without regard for approval, this is the highest form of power. And if the room was not yours when you entered, by the time you leave, they will remember it as yours. Not because you demanded it, but because you did not need to. Fame is not just noise, it is a weapon. And most men speak as if they are asking for permission to exist. You can spot them instantly. A rising intonation at the end of each sentence. Nervous laughter, endless, I think. Maybe I am not sure. But they speak as if they are apologizing for taking up space. This is not speech. This is self-sabotage. Machiavelli knew the truth. Power is not always in what you say, but in how you say it. And when you speak as if you cannot be denied, people do not analyze your words. They submit to the gravity of your confidence. Because here lies the essence of the game. People are not guided by logic. They are driven by emotions. They do not follow the truth. They follow conviction. If you sound confident, they believe you are right. If you hesitate, they decide you are not worth listening to. How does Machiavelli's voice sound? It is slow, calm, and assured. You speak as if your words are not open for discussion, as if every sentence is a command. You speak like someone who already expects to be listened to. It does not matter if you are in a room full of experts. If you sound like the solution, they will yield. That is the first rule. Sound like the conclusion, they sound like the beginning. And here is what most will never tell you. You do not need to speak often to be respected. In fact, the more you speak, the more chances you give others to decipher you, to argue with you, or worse, to stop fearing you. Speak less, mean more. When you speak, eliminate softness. No filler words, no explanations, no apologies. Never say, "I am just saying," "I might be wrong," or "I don't know if this makes sense." These phrases are a crutch for the weak. Get rid of them. Say what you mean and leave it at that. Let others deal with the silence that follows, because silence after a strong statement is power. It challenges people to confront you, and most will not dare. Why? Because they are too afraid of what you might say next. Understand this. The tone of your voice is your true message. Fame is superficial, but your tone, your calm, confident, deliberate tone, tells people where you stand in the hierarchy. If you want to rise, elevate your tone, slow your pace, remove nervous energy. Sound like a person who has nothing to prove and is in control. Sound like someone who has already made a decision and expects the world to catch up. You do not win conversations by volume. You win them by speaking in a way that makes people feel your words are not suggestions, but facts. That is how rulers speak. That is how generals speak. That is how queens reclaim their thrones. And if someone challenges you, never defend yourself. Redirect. Do not argue, do not explain, do not justify. Just say, "I disagree," or better yet, "That is incorrect," and move on. Because when you refuse to debate, you signal something frightening, that your reality is not open for discussion. That is how you control the room without raising your voice. Because confidence is not loudness, it is gravity. It is the invisible weight behind your words. The assumption is that when you speak, others should listen. When you speak, the room should feel it, not through noise, not through arrogance, but through unwavering confidence. You are not trying to be right. You speak as someone who cannot be wrong. You are not trying to be heard. You speak as someone who does not care whether you are agreed with, because you will agree in the end. This is power, and from this moment on, this is how you speak, or remain silent. Confidence without control is an adornment. You can walk with your head held high, speak well, move with authority, but if someone can still provoke you with a single sentence, you are not strong, you are vulnerable. This is where most men fail. They master the art of presence, they master the art of shouting, but their emotions still belong to other people. A barely perceptible hint of disrespect, and they react with a compliment, and they soften. Silence, and they lose control. You are not free until you master the invisible war within your own mind, and this begins with reprogramming your personality. Machiavelli understood this in the corridors of power. He was not afraid of enemies. He feared dependency, whether emotional or otherwise. He did not trust attachment. He trusted control, because once people know what drives you, they know where to push. And once they know where to push, you cease to be dangerous. You become manageable. And manageable men are discarded as soon as they lose their usefulness. This is where transformation occurs. You stop being a person who reacts and become a person who calculates. If someone insults you, you do not explain yourself. You observe. You extract data on what they are trying to achieve from you, what they are hiding behind the insult. If someone praises you, you do not give in. You analyze why they are complimenting you now, what they want. If someone ignores you, you do not plead. You become even colder. Silence becomes your weapon, not your wound. This means becoming psychologically unavailable, non-emotional, and unshakable. You feel everything, but you act only when it aligns with your goals. When you are tested, you do not explode. You do not show visible discomfort. Why? Because your mind is not a public space. It is a fortress, and you decide who enters. This is how you stop being manipulated. Most men are so easily controlled. It is laughable. Tell them they are not good enough, and they will start over-explaining themselves. Tell them they are magnificent, and they will pursue you. Distance yourself from them emotionally, and they will beg for your reconciliation. This is not strength. It is programming. And until you break this code, you will always be someone's tool. So how do you reprogram yourself? Eliminate the need to be understood. This is a fundamental virus, the desire to explain oneself, to be seen, to be recognized. This is what makes you controllable. You do not exist to be understood. You exist to move the world around you, strategically, surgically silent. Destroy the fear of rejection, because a Machiavellian mind does not chase acceptance. It controls access. You do not want to be invited in. You want people to wonder what will happen if they are no longer allowed to be near you, and eliminate the habit of reacting emotionally. Emotions are real, but do not matter if they are not used as weapons. If you are angry, use it as fuel. If you are offended, use it as leverage. If there is doubt about you, use it as silence and let the results speak later. This is how strong men are created. They do not become robots. They become undeniable. Because once no one can touch you emotionally, they can only watch as you move with precision and fear what you will do next. Let others chase the world and understanding. You strive for clarity and control, because the world is indifferent to your feelings. It only reacts to what you emit. Confidence, direction, seriousness. And when your personality becomes unshakable, you become dangerous. Not because of cruelty or loudness, but because you are untouchable. People around will try. They will test you, praise you, ignore you, tempt you, but nothing will work. You will remain the same, cold, calm, calculating. And over time, they will stop trying to manipulate you, because they will understand something terrifying. You are the only person they cannot budge. This is the final transformation, not a pose, not a speech, not an appearance, but a personality. You will no longer be swayed by others. You will shape the space, set the rules, determine the outcome. You do not need to be understood. You do not need to be accepted. You need nothing from others, because now you belong to no one. And that is what makes you unattainable. Rejection feels like a wound for the weak. For the strong, it is a signal, a gift, a message from the world that says you have been too accessible, too obvious, too desperate. Excellent. Now you know what needs to be eliminated. Understand this. Rejection is not personal, it is positional. People reject what they believe they can do without. If you are denied, it means they think they have lost nothing. It is not an insult, it is information. Now you know where they stand and where you stand, which means you can prepare a counterattack when they are weak and you are untouchable. The first step is to never show that it affects you. As soon as you display pain, they win. It is not about them, it is about your legend. A Machiavellian mind does not panic when the door is closed. It makes the room colder. You were not rejected. They were disqualified from accessing you. Rejection only becomes real when you acknowledge it, so you do not react. You evolve. The second step is to withdraw your presence like a weapon. What happens when something you took for granted disappears? You begin to feel its weight, its value. This is exactly what you do in the face of rejection. You cut ties without explanations, without emotional goodbyes, just a strategic absence. And while they feel the emptiness, you build. Machiavelli said that people should either be generously rewarded or destroyed because they seek revenge for minor offenses, but not for serious ones. Therefore, make their offenses insignificant as soon as possible. Let your silence be louder than words. Let them wonder where you have gone, how far you have moved away, and whether they had access to you at all. The third step is to rewrite the narrative. Rejection has power only when it seems like you were chasing something. So rewrite the story, not for them, but for yourself. You were not rejected. You stepped out of the game because it was too trivial for you. You allowed them to say no because you observed their behavior. You gave them the opportunity to show that they could recognize strength. They failed, and in that failure, you learned everything you needed to know. Now you disappear and improve. Step 4. Transform rejection into control. Here lies your victory. Rejection brings clarity. Most people live in confusion, not understanding who respects them, who uses them, and who fears them. But rejection cuts through that fog like a blade. Now you know who is blind. Now you know where your strength does not yet have influence. What to do? You sharpen your edges. You enhance your image. You elevate your value to such an extent that those who once ignored you are now forced to explain themselves by uttering your name. And when they come back, and they will come back, you do not even need to reject them. You have already moved beyond their reach. This is control. Quiet, constant, elegant. Step 5. Turn your return into a weapon. The goal is not revenge. Revenge is emotional. Machiavellian strength is always calculated. You do not seek to pay someone back. You let time take care of that for you. You return only when your presence causes discomfort. When your success is so evident that it cannot be ignored. When the person who rejected you now watches you dominate in the very space they thought you did not belong, you say nothing. You do not express anger or sarcasm from your ego. You offer a simple glance. Or better yet, no glance at all. Because now you are not trying to be accepted. You are setting the standard. The final word, rejection, is not defeat. It is a test, a filter, a process that shows what needs to be cooled, what needs to be cut off, and who to leave behind. Remember this: you were not rejected. You were redirected to a version of yourself that does not ask twice, does not falter, and does not wait to be chosen. Now act in silence, and return with a strength that they cannot reject, even if they want to. You have been transformed, not inspired, not motivated, but reshaped. And from within, you have destroyed your self-doubt not through affirmations, but through actions. You did not wait to feel ready. You moved, you acted, and you realized that strength does not belong to the perfect. It belongs to the bold. You took rejection and turned it into fuel. You no longer chase approval. Now you make people feel the weight of your loss. You have become rare, strategic, quiet, and they have noticed that you no longer enter rooms to be accepted. Now you own your name. Through your presence, your posture, and your precision, you no longer speak to be heard. You speak as if no one can afford to disagree. And above all, you have reprogrammed your identity. You are no longer predictable. You are no longer easily swayed. You have become unattainable, emotionally invulnerable. They cannot provoke you. They cannot tempt you. They cannot shake you, because you no longer belong to anyone. And that makes you unforgettable. This is what creates a legend, not noise, not fame, but powerful silence, cold clarity, relentless consistency. You do not need to announce your transformation. They will feel it in your stride, in your tone, in your absence. You have become the person that people watch in silence. The one who once chased is now the one being pursued. The one who once begged now makes the decisions. The one who no longer needs approval because you have become the standard. So no, this is not just about confidence. This is about domination, mental, emotional, psychological. You are not here to fit in. You are here to move the pieces, to change the space, to remain in memory, even in silence. Because legends do not ask. They do not explain. They simply exist, and the world changes around them. The final command, if you have stopped chasing, is your choice. If you are ready to become someone who cannot be controlled, predicted, or forgotten, this is your path. Because this is not self-help. This is war, and you have just become a weapon.